What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Boot Report. In today's episode, we are going to go over some insane leaks, some new Messi boots, Rodrigo potentially switching brands, KDB moving on from Man City, and of course, your questions. Let's jump into it with the KDB story. So recently, this past week, KDB posted a social media post up on Instagram and I believe X as well about moving on this next season from Man City. He's been there for almost a decade, and it's one of those stories that you just kind of tear up with. He's a generational talent. He's one of, if not the best midfielders in Premier League history in terms of statistics and also just in terms of raw ability and talent. And although I'm an Arsenal fan, he is one of those players that it made me want to watch Man City. I absolutely love watching KDB play. Sure, he's had his ups and downs. Sometimes he's a little more consistent than others, but there was a span of about 5 or 6 years in his Man City career where he was just completely unplayable. Like, he was by far the best player on the team. He was scoring free kicks, making just absolutely outrageous assist passes, and he's sort of known as one of, I think, the top. I would put him probably in the top 5 Premier League midfielders of all time. He's that good, and him leaving Man City is a big deal because, number one, who do they replace him with? But number two is, what does his career look like next? Personally, I think there's maybe 3 places he could go, and I know that's not very specific. Like, Noah, come on, like, do better than that. My first thought is potentially MLS. He could maybe come to Miami, or he'd go to another MLS club that has the funds, just like Marco Reus did, just like some, Messi and Suarez and Busquets and Alba and stuff. Obviously, the Inter Miami situation's a little bit different, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in an MLS kit at some point. The Middle East, so going to Saudi Arabia is another place where, I honestly wouldn't blame him going somewhere there, going to Ronaldo's team, going and setting up Mane and going and setting up Ronaldo. Having a player like that who is that talented at setting players up, and to have 2 or 3 lethal finishers on a team like that would be pretty exceptional. And on top of the fact that the money is probably absolutely ridiculous. And this is where we go back to a couple episodes ago when we spoke about some of the younger players going over to Saudi Arabia, and what does, Trent Alexander-Arnold, right? Like, that's obviously, he's not going to Saudi Arabia, but that is a situation where, do you go for money? Do you go for personal excitement? Do you go for a dream club? Do you go for, what reason? And Duran went over to Saudi Arabia for Ronaldo's team much earlier than I think a lot of people anticipated, because he was crushing in the Premier League, and he's only 20 or 21 years old. But again, if a Premier League pays a tenth of what a Saudi team would pay, and you have family that you want to take care of, and you're looking to build generational wealth, at some level you have to kind of say to yourself, like, respectfully, like, he's doing that for himself. Like, I know as a purist, as a football purist, it sucks because you want to see that player be the best possible player they can be. And being in the Saudi league isn't going to get you to be the best possible player you're going to be just because you're not around the top talent in the world, whereas being in the Prem would give you that. My 2 cents on this situation would be, because KDB is now in his 30s and he's sort of on his way down in terms of kind of slowing his career down, that is where he's an amazing name. He's like Ronaldo, where, sure, his career is kind of, it's the twilight of his career. He's ending his career in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years. And why not go get a bag? Like, that makes complete sense to me. But it's also sad for Premier League fans and Man City fans. I'm sure you guys watching this. So I don't know. The other option, I think the third and final option, I won't spend too much time on this, but I don't think it's out of the question for him to go to Belgium, like to go and play in his home country. Like, I see that as a very, very responsible move from his part, particularly with kids. I think being close to family, being close to, potentially friends from back home, going to play for his boyhood club, like those types of things I would totally put on the table. So for me, it's between those 3 places. If he goes anywhere else, I would be honestly super surprised. I don't think he's going to go, after the success he's had at Man City, I don't see him going to another major club in, let's say, the top 5 leagues. So obviously he's not going anywhere in England. Italy, France, Spain, or Germany. I don't really see him going anywhere in those countries unless some team comes out and is offering him hundreds of millions to play for like a season or two. So a little bit sad. It's but again, this is the generation of players. It was the same when Messi left Barcelona. Like for me as a Barca fan, that sucked, right? When Henry left Arsenal, when it's just like these things happen, man. We're growing up and it's sad. It's crazy. KDB's an absolute Premier League legend and he's not going to be there next year, which is kind of wild. Like a Prem without KDB is kind of weird. Moving on next to really quick. I know there's a lot of Real Madrid fans probably who watch me. What an absolutely stunning performance in the Champions League. Just got to say it. Absolutely insane. Declan Rice with some crazy free kicks. And I do want to mention the Wesley Sneijder interview where he was like, well, that's not really that impressive and blah, blah, blah. Like I could do that in my sleep, yada, yada, yada. And he was sort of downplaying it. Look, I'm not really like, I wouldn't call myself a Declan Rice fan. I think he's a fantastic player, but I'm not somebody who's going to follow him to whatever club he plays for next, right? Like if he plays for another club outside of Arsenal, I'm not going to follow him and be like, oh my God, I must, right? It's not like a Messi situation or somebody else where I'm like, I just want to watch that particular player play. However, when Wesley Sneijder said that, all I could think about in my brain was the time where he was like, well, I was on the same level as Messi and Ronaldo, blah, 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 blah. And in my playing career and in my worldview as a footballer, that is that's a comment coming from somebody who is regretful that they didn't fulfill their potential. And I say that meaning I think Wesley Sneijder says that stuff because he can compensate for all the bullshit he tried to pull during his career in terms of life decisions and not caring enough and whatever. And then he got after his career and he got fat and he got, whatever. Yes, he was an absolutely unbelievable player. He was a world great at the time back in 2008 to 2013 or 14 or whatever. However, he's not even in the conversation as one of the best players of all time. He's not even in the conversation because he didn't do the work and he wasn't consistent enough and he didn't perform that well. And you can say all you want about blah, 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 Declan Rice, this, that, and the other thing. It's not that impressive, blah, blah, blah. But like, why do you want to tear people down, man? Like, appreciate what an incredible 2 free kicks that was against an amazing side. Real Madrid's one of the best sides in the world. Like, that type of vibe just gets me going. I just think I think he's just regretting the fact that he said he said he was one of the best players in the world and that he should have won a Ballon d'Or and whatever, but he didn't. And so it's like, yeah, suck it. I don't know. I just think that's a guy who regrets the decisions he made during the period of time in his life where it mattered the most. All right, next, moving on to in weekly news, moving on to latest colorway drops. Now, I have a couple with me, which are pretty cool. Already got some of the weekly colorway drops. First, I want to go over the UnoZero Aventto. So this is the white and the black model. This is a brand new offering from the UnoZero brand, who previously has only really done sort of pseudo classic football boots. They have the Modelo, the Cali, and then they have like a turf model or a court model. And the Aventto is a boot that I actually spent a lot of time with. There are 2 prototypes up in the corner here where you won't really see them on videos unless you're really looking closely. And even then you probably wouldn't know what they were. But I was actually part of the development process for this football boot. So I worked really closely with the CEO and the owner of UnoZero and gave a bunch of testing feedback, went through the whole process with him, and created what I think is going to be an absolutely sensational product for the market. It's all K-leather. It's got an awesome sole plate. And again, I don't make any money from the sales of UnoZero, so I don't really care if you buy them or not. I'm just telling you what they are. This is a latest drop from them. It's a boot that I put a lot of time, energy, and effort into in terms of my feedback. Of course, when I do that, a brand that pays me for consulting is not they don't have to obviously implement any of the things that I say. However, UnoZero was very, very, I guess, they were really interested in putting my feedback into play, which is really, really cool. So they come in 2 different colors, and the final product turned out really, really sweet. It's got a much more modern sole plate, and it's super exciting. So the UnoZero Aventto, which I believe now is on sale, which is kind of cool. The next one I want to go over that released recently is the Under Armour Shadow 3 Pitch Viper. Now, this is one of the most wild colorways I have ever seen on a football boot. It has this snake skin like texture. And the interesting thing about this boot, so if we go oh, here we go. So I've got the normal Shadow 3, and the normal Shadow 3 is one of those football boots that is incredibly soft. It's got a exposed knit. Obviously, all of this black material is exposed knit, and then the red is that sort of the synthetic TPU coating on it. This has synthetic coating on the entirety of the upper, so it's a lot like we're talking magnitude stiffer overall as a product. So from the standpoint of what they look like, I think they look absolutely amazing. I love how crazy they are. I love how cool they look. And it's definitely a boot that I'm excited to get some photos in. But in terms of playing in these, yes, you'll see a play test, don't worry. But I imagine I'm going to have to take these off like a lot. This is a very, very cool football boot. We leaked them a couple weeks ago in the weekly news, and from a couple episodes ago, or 2 or 3 episodes ago now, of the boot report. And they're really cool. They're really dope. I got a chance to try them on months ago, and they were pretty stiff. So I wonder, as a actual functional product, if they're not going to be sort of up to par compared to the regular release edition, which is so comfortable. You guys can watch my play test and stuff of these. And yeah, I just don't think the Pitch Viper is going to be, it's going to be a really cool trophy boot. It's not going to be a boot I don't think that I'm going to manage to wear on a very regular basis. We also got Mbappe rocking the AirMax 95 Superfly 10. Oh, my doorbell's ringing. Be back. So we got the AirMax 95 Superfly 10 on feet with Mbappe. And I got to say, yes, these were leaked a couple of weeks ago. I like the look of them on feet, particularly in the Real Madrid kit, because they have the white socks. And I don't think they're going to look all that amazing on like a normal consumer, because they're a little weird. It's the same way I feel about the TN 95, 98 boots. They're around here somewhere, but you get what I'm saying. Those tiger stripe ones. I have the purple and the orange. They look kind of cool. If I get my hands on a pair of the Vapors, I would be kind of stoked, because I'd be like, yeah, dope. And then I'd probably go buy the tennis shoes, and then I'd do, or the street style shoes, and I'd probably do like a cool photo shoot or something. Like, creatively, I think that would be a really fun exercise to do. However, as a product, it looks like there's kind of multi-layer, there's several different layers to the boots, and it's probably not a good playing experience. They just sort of more of a hype. It's like a collab with a sneaker, which is super dope. I love when brands do this, and I like when Nike has done it in the past. However, I think that this is one of those situations where, from a performance perspective, Vapor 15, Superfly 9 with the TN models, those ones actually performed really well, remarkably, because the rubber elements on the side of them actually felt like they were doing something to the upper. It actually created even more lockdown. This one, not so sure. But hey, maybe I could be corrected. If you guys have a pair and you're willing to send them to me for a review, that would be amazing. But I understand that obviously is probably not going to happen. So I'm sure they'll come out soon to the public. My guess is they'd release probably in the next week or so. I know the Mbappe special editions are supposed to release in the next couple weeks as well, or maybe in the next month or so, which we leaked in last week's episode. But yeah, we'll see. Okay, now moving on to boot leak releases. So we now have on-feet photos of the new Bellingham Predators. To me, they look like they're an all-silver boot, very reminiscent of the new DNAs. So they have this kind of silver. They're like a really beautiful metallic silver colorway. And then they've got this really rich red color. I'm trying to think if I have like they look like the Maroon Tiempo Legend 3 Elites that I have. Those ones, it's like yeah, let me grab those. Almost like this color accent. So imagine like those two colors combined. And they look honestly pretty sweet. And they have, so it's an all silver, and then I think they've got just red tongue, like the maroon deep red tongue and red stripes with, of course, his logo and stuff on the tongue, and it's all sorted out there. I think those are going to look pretty awesome on feet. I doubt any other pro player is going to be wearing them because Bellingham's not like a, signature colorways are only supposed to be worn by that particular player, unless you're Messi and other people decide to wear your shoes because they're like a completely different material to the regular ones, right? Like CR7 special edition colorways were worn by other players as well during that period of time when he had signatures, and they weren't like he hasn't had a CR7 signature in a really long time, several years now. But he's been like the main face of like the Cosmic Speeds and some of those types of boots. Although that's moving a little bit more towards Mbappe now, who's now getting his first signature colorway or second signature colorway now, which is pretty cool. The final leak that we got, boot leak that we got this week, was really good photos of the next gen Messi F50s they're like a white, pink, and silver. It doesn't really match the Inter Miami pink, so it's definitely like a separate thing from them. The boots look fine. There's been a Tunit F50 F50.9, I think, that looks really similar. I'll have to do research. And then there was a white and sort of this deeper red pink colorway at Leather F50 Messi edition from like 2012, maybe 2013, 12 or 13. And so this colorway is very much on brand with those two colors. So kind of interesting, brings back a couple new colors, and they're definitely unique looking. They're not my favorite, if I'm honest. And I've sort of been a little bit meh about the F50s. I mean, if you guys probably know, the Messi F50 was like, it's a good boot. I like this hybrid touch. It's really robust. It's very solid feeling. It's a very well constructed football boot. I'm personally just not a huge fan of the shape, and I'm not a huge fan of the lacing system. The burrito tongue just like doesn't do it for me. I'd rather have a regular standalone U-throat tongue, or if they were to throw the compression fit tunnel system in there, that would be great for me too. Like, I don't mind either way. So Messi F50, I'm not super excited about these because I just don't care. And yeah, signature colorways are signature colorways. It takes a very special signature colorway for me to be like, whoa. Bad Bunny, those were kind of dope. I still have them down here below. This colorway, this white purple, was a bit unhinged, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll keep them. I may sell those at some point, but we'll see. So anyway, that wraps up boot leak releases. Now moving on to section 2, boot talk, where we talk about boots. Weekly boot comparison. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about the 2 greatest Mizuno football boots ever created. The Wave Cup SS Japan, or the Wave Cup in general, and the Morelia DNA. Now, if you guys don't know already, these are 2 of my favorite boots of all time. Both of these boots are definitely, I would put both of these in my top 10 football boots of all time. They are both exceptionally comfortable. They are both exceptional performing, the highest quality K-leather of any football boot. And in terms of durability and build quality and just general performance of what you're looking for in a football boot, it really is, these really are the best of the best. There is one thing, though, that both of these boots have that I think is bullshit. And I'm going to tell you in this comparison. So I've updated the comparison just a little bit to now we're going to be doing sole plate, upper, heel, comfort, performance, design, lace area, and X factor. Okay. So really quick, let's just rip through this. If you guys want a full scale comparison, you guys can subscribe to my newsletter. I will leave a link in the description to this week's newsletter, because this podcast will probably come out at the same time or just before my newsletter goes out, where I do a full breakdown comparison of these. But I want to do a comparison in the video just so you guys can actually get the visual of what these are, for those of you who are living under a rock and don't actually know what these are. Okay, so the sole plate. We have two similar but different sole plates. We have the Wave Cup with the all bladed studs, which is very, very cool. It's a really unique stud pattern as well, with the wave technology here in the heel area. And then you've got the Morelia Neo 4 and Neo 4 Beta sole plate that's been slapped on a Morelia 2 upper for the DNA. Both of these respond and perform really well. They are both excellent sole plates. They both have great amount of snapback as well. Tons of responsiveness for both models, I would say about equal. Very, very strong through the midfoot, although I would say the Morelia Neo 4 sole plate has a little bit more structure just because it's a little newer through this midfoot. Not to say that this has any lack of structure. That's very, very strong. But this one is like, yeah, they're about the same. So really is going to come down to, number one, personal preference, but number two, which one of these you just prefer in terms of a stud pattern. Now, in terms of the underfoot feel and what I like, I'm picking the Wave Cup because of this wave tech in the heel area. It feels really comfortable underfoot. It's a very unique feeling sole plate, and you feel remarkably balanced for how crazy and aggressive this looks. So for me, sole plate goes to the Wave Cup. Now moving on to the upper. The upper is also going to be completely personal preference, in my opinion. The Morelia 2 upper is very, very soft, but it's got a little bit more padding than the Wave Cup does. That literally just comes down to the material that they've stitched to the underside of the leather, as well as the actual leather stitching pattern. The more stitches you put in here, obviously the more compressed the leather and the underside nylon material or whatever they're putting under there is. And so it becomes a little bit thinner. It's a thinner sensation, like the Adler boots, right? I tend to prefer, as I've said before, usually a little bit on the boots that are a little bit more on the thinner side. So my personal preference and what I'm picking for the upper is going to be the Wave Cup. That being said, if you're in the comment section going nuts at me because you want the upper of the Morelia 2, I'm not going to complain. So 2 points so far for the Wave Cup. Now moving on to the heel area. Now this for me is really a no-brainer. They have done such a fabulous job with the DNA. Look how lovely and narrow the starting position is. But as you can see, there's plenty of flexibility so that if you have a wide heel area, no problem, it'll fit you. But it starts narrow, which is going to make for really narrow Achilles people like myself in narrow heel areas feel really snug and secure in these. They're going to fit pretty much everybody, and they've gone full Asics with this, with a beautiful micro suede material here in the heel area, whereas the Wave Cup has gone for a much more traditional Morelia 2 type heel that's just a leather, like a fake leather material on the inside. I don't slip at all in the Wave Cup. However, if they put the DNA heel on these, it would be just ridiculous. So for me, the heel area goes to the DNA. Next, we move on to the comfort. Now, I'm just going to be really quick with the comfort. These are going to fit pretty much everybody. They are both absolutely sensational. The comfort is easily a tie. I literally, during the I wore these two boots while I wrote the newsletter yesterday, and neither of them give me any issues. There's no blistering. There's no nothing. I'm sitting at my desk, no pain. They literally both feel like slippers. So tie for the comfort. The performance, also going to be a really quick one. This is also a tie. I think you could potentially give a little edge to the Wave Cup if you wanted to, just because it's got that little thinner, it's a slightly thinner leather feel. However, I think for this comparison, it's also going to be a tie because these are exceptional in terms of performance. It's not going to give you any sort of special like grip knit style vibe. It's not going to be anything like that. But for a leather football boot, these are some of the best you can possibly find on the market. Now moving to the design. This is completely subjective. So it just depends if you like more of the fold over tongue and a little bit more of that like retro vibe, or if you like something that literally looks like a spaceship and is like the combination of luxury and performance put together. I like the fold over tongue of the Wave Cup, so I'm going to pick the Wave Cup. But again, I think both of these are in the top. Again, in terms of boot design, these are both so sensational. But I think the Wave Cup is a little bit more the vibe. I don't know. That's what I like. Now we move on to the lacing area, and this is the one gripe I have with these two boots that cost over $300 is that they have added to both the very, very annoying and basic cotton crappy cotton crappy Mizuno laces. And I just like, why wouldn't you put Zero Glide laces in a boot like this? Why wouldn't you put Zero Glide laces in a boot like this? Or just laces that aren't total dog shit? In my opinion, it's sort of an oversight. It's really annoying because every other part of this boot has very clearly been meticulously designed. And then they're just like, let's just put a shit pair of laces. Like, that makes no sense to me. So I don't know. For me, it's a tie because they're the same set of laces. They're just a different color. And so a tie for both of those. Then we move on to the X Factor. Now, for me, the X Factor goes to the DNA. And that is because this is a boot that no other brand seems to have the balls to actually pull off. And that is put a GX2 upper on a Air Zoom unit vapor sole plate, right? Let's put the Predator upper on the F50 sole plate. Let's put the, I don't like the Future, but let's put the, I don't know, the whatchamacallit, the King sole plate with the Ultra upper. I don't know, like do something interesting. You already have the pieces to the puzzle. Just put them together. And the fact that they've done something like this is just freaking awesome. So X Factor goes to the DNA. So what that does is that gives the Wave Cup 3 points, the DNA 2 points, and there are 3 ties. So very, very close. The DNA just falls short of the Wave Cup in my opinion. That's a personal thing. You could very easily say that this runs all those categories, but again, for my sake, I'm picking the Wave Cup SS Japan. So thanks for staying tuned to the boot comparison, weekly boot comparison. Next, moving on to hashtag Wear Your Boot Wednesday, the section where we pick, or I pick, a winner from the Wednesday submissions on Instagram. You have to use the hashtag Wear Your Boot Wednesday. Actually, we're going to make it Wear Your Boots Wednesday, plural, BOOTS. Wear Your Boots Wednesday, because then we can go into the hashtag, follow the hashtag, and then you can see all the submissions. This week is a beautiful, I'm just on a Hypervenom train right now. I know it's a hype. We're going to talk about it in a minute. At DJ Diviny, good friend of mine, posted a pair of orange Hypervenom 1s on a beautiful firm ground pitch. Really, really sweet. So thank you to DJ for submitting. Thank you everybody who submitted this week. And yeah, when it's Wednesday your time, you have to tag at noah.cavanaugh. So tag me on Instagram, put the hashtag Wear Your Boots Wednesday on the little thing. You have to be wearing your boots. I've literally said this 3 times, literally yesterday, to people who had the boots up like this and were like, Wear Your Boots Wednesday. It's like, I'm not going to repost you. I'm not going to repost you because you aren't actually wearing your freaking football boots. So DJ, congratulations. Thanks for participating. I appreciate you. And a freaking amazing looking pair of Hypervenoms. I love that orange colorway. Now we're going to move on to boot fit and tech. And this week's boot fit and tech is going to be about the new UnoZero boots, only because I want to use this as an example for other brands. Now, boot fit and tech, most leather boots from small brands, like how Adidas is doing this really well because they have 3 different leather models at 3 different price tiers. You have Copa Pure 3 at the top, you have Icon 2, and then you have Gloro 2. All 3 of those have slightly different variations of their calfskin leather. Obviously, Fusion Skin is sort of a synthetic calfskin hybrid. You have just plain calfskin or cow leather on the Icon 2, and then you have a pretty cheap cow leather on the Gloro 2. But all three of them are super comfortable, have a great touch on the ball, and I would argue are all nice leather football boots. The least sort of leather football boot of those three is definitely the Pure 3 because it has knit involved. It's a lot more high tech. It's very it's a lot closer to Tiempo Legend 9 Elite, which is like, you know, kind of that perfect hybrid of modern and heritage and leather. And I think this is the type of boot we need to see more from brands like that. I want to see premium calfskin, or in this case, premium kangaroo leather with modern amenities like a really nice speed-ish sole plate, suede in the heel, low profile, very streamlined. Why? Well, I'm going to ask the question and then I'm going to answer it. Why can't we get something like this from Puma? Why can't we get something like this from Nike? Well, the answer is cost. And to me, I think there is a decentralization coming in terms of boot tech from the big brands. You see big brands like Nike, and I'm picking on Nike because Nike has been driving me up the freaking wall recently with the fact that they have 3 silos. One is absolutely shit in the Tiempo. And then they make Vapor remakes that are kind of meh. And great, they're making Hypervenom remakes. That's awesome. But then they have 2 models that kind of feel the same. I ranted about this in last week's episode. Why not, when you have more like an unfathomably more amount of money than a company like UnoZero? How is UnoZero? How is the Pantofolo d'Oro? How are brands like Adler justifying creating this type of boot when Nike just won't? And I get at mass scale, the cost differences is crazy, but I would argue, and I would have to actually put numbers to this because I don't know the particular numbers, but I would imagine that a boot company like this that's making smaller batch football boots than a Nike brand is making still less margin than if Nike made K leather football boots, even at the Premier, like a Premier 3 or Premier 4 level, because they have economies of scale. You get cheaper the more you produce. Okay, cool. So how the hell are we seeing brands like these, you know, like from a technology perspective, this isn't remarkable. This isn't something that we've never seen before, but it's a unique spin and a unique take on a very well thought out formula. Morelia Neo 4, Asics DS Lite X55, the white F50 leather remakes, leather in the forefoot, synthetic in the midfoot, and these guys have just gone, you know what? Everybody seems to want a leather football boot. So let's create a really nice sole plate that's very reminiscent of the Neo series and the DS Lite series, create a midfoot and a forefoot full of like really premium K leather, create synthetic in the rear, which is fine, put some really nice touches on it, make it a simple design, and there you go. It's not freaking rocket science. And it drives me up the wall that brands like Puma and Nike refuse to do leather. Like, I get you're trying to cut cost. I get it's a business decision. But you lose people like me who are, number one, boot enthusiasts, the loudest voices on the market because I've got an audience. And it's like, oh man, it just kills me. It just kills me. Like, I get it. It's cost. I get it. I totally understand. But at the same time, you're not creating customers that are diehard. Back in 2010, 11, 12, I feel like the Nike hype around football boots was like, if you wear Nike, you wear Nike. Like, you're a Superfly 3 guy. You're a CTR guy. Like that, it was pride to wear those. Whereas now it's like, oh yeah, I'm a Vapor guy, but like I could also wear F50s, or I could also wear something, you know, a Furon or whatever. It doesn't have that same cult following anymore. And it's really frustrating because I think Adidas is capturing that so well. They're bringing back the F50 name, the Predator name. The Predator is incredible. It's one of the best boots on the market, easily. And it's got a cult following for that reason. But Nike won't create a boot that does something like this. That's super simple. It's pretty lightweight and it's super comfortable. But Adidas will do that. And UnoZero will do that. And my hope is that Nike gets taught a lesson. I'm not trying to be a dickhead to Nike necessarily, but just I hope that brands are understanding and realizing the impact that their cost-cutting decisions are having on the building and the infrastructure of their brand identity. It's not just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are like actual people who couldn't give a shit about Nike anymore because they're not creating anything interesting. And that's what I'm sad about, because I love the Nike brand. I think it's awesome. I love their products. I wear their products all the time. But again, you're not really creating a cult following anymore. So my hope is that a little bit of cult following goes over to brands like UnoZero, goes over to brands like Adler, which we've already seen, goes over to brands like Mizuno, who are creating those cult type boots. Like if the Aventto had a cult following and just people loved this boot because of the way that it's constructed or whatever the thing is that makes it special, even if simplicity is that special thing. Man, yeah. Rant over. Thank you. Section 3, market report. Let's jump into resale market trends. So this is a really interesting thing for you guys to watch. So we've already seen Hypervenom 1 is coming soon. I think it's a June, I want to say it's a June-July release for the remake, for the Hypervenom 1 upper, Hypervenom 3 sole plate. It's going to be beautiful. I'm so excited to have a pair in my hands at some point. I will try to get some. I will probably buy them if I don't actually get them from a brand. However, don't be surprised if you see a lot of Hypervenom 1s and Hypervenom 3s resurfacing on the resale market very soon. My guess, I know this, knowing a lot of boot dealers. Dealers will hold stock of a particular boot and then sell it at the top of the curve of like when the hype is. My guess, and if I was a boot dealer, I would wait until June or July, whenever the Hypervenom 1 remake releases. And again, resale market trends. When that boot reaches the pinnacle of hype and it goes live and they sell out instantaneously. Watch what happens. I'm going to predict this now. Watch what happens to the resale market. Number one, you'll obviously see if I was smart and let's say I bought 5 Hypervenom Phantom 1s in a range of sizes for like right at market value or maybe a little bit higher. So let's say I paid like anywhere between $250, $300 for each pair. Once those remakes go out of stock and the resellers and the scalpers and whatever end up selling, they somehow end up with 7 pairs because of their bots and stuff that they're able to do. Fair play. It's business. It's super shitty for the market, but like it is what it is. It happens. The smart reseller will look at prices of Hypervenom 1 remake and go, I'm going to sell all of my Hypervenoms still at a well over probably 1.5 to 2x what I paid for them. But I'm going to throw that Hypervenom 1 OG model just underneath, just $10 underneath, sort of that average price point. And you'll see those Hypervenoms in the OGs are going to come back onto the market like a wildfire because they're going to try and ride that hype wave of that remake coming back. It's going to be really interesting. So if you don't get your hands on a pair of the Hypervenom 1 remakes, rest assured there'll probably be a lot of Hypervenom 1s showing up on the market. And I would not be surprised if that boot right there gets some offers in the next couple months for me to sell them. I probably won't. unless they're willing to trade me for a different colorway. But needless to say, it's going to be really interesting to watch the resale market trends. So just watch them. Go to my Instagram at Noah.Cavanaugh. Click on the people who I follow and then look through those and look through all the boot dealers. You'll see it'll be like, boot supplier, boot nostalgia. Like, I'm just throwing out names here. Soccer USA, OKC, like all these different people. Go follow them and just watch their stories and watch what they're posting. It's super interesting. All right, moving on to notable boots surfacing. So this, you can't submit anything for this section, but what I do every week is I go through all of or as many as have stories, and I screenshot and or save or send to myself stories of random boots that pop up that are super special and interesting. So there's 3 notable boots that have surfaced this week that I think are absolutely freaking amazing. Okay. One is from the Korean, this is like a Korea special edition, it's like a tiger stripe Vapor 13. You'll see photos up on screen from Your Cleats Plug. And they are 8 US, they're brand new in box, and they are sensational looking. This is a very rare pair of football boots. They didn't number these, but I think they're under like 4,000 pairs, 3,000 pairs, 4,000 pairs made. They're very rare. They're super hard to find, and they're just absolutely sensational. So that's a really cool boot. And then Your Cleats Plug actually had a second pair that surfaced that I thought was just too good to pass up. And it is a pair of Hypervenom 1. Well, technically Hypervenom 2.5. So like Hypervenom 1, they updated it to the really crappy upper, went back to the first generation upper, but with flywire cables for like the 2.5 generation. And then obviously Hypervenom 3 was a totally different boot. This is the Wayne Rooney special edition Hypervenom 2.5, and they are awesome. I am so tempted to buy these. They're not in my size. They're in a size 10 US, but these are one of the most iconic looking football boots. I think they're so sick. And they match the Arsenal colors, which is dope. Although obviously Rooney was never an Arsenal player. So that is what it is. So Your Cleats Plug, congratulations, dude. 2 boots on the notable boots surfacing this week. Well done. Some insane stock. Then we have a really cool pair. This pair is more nostalgic to me because I wore this pair. I had matching boots with one of my closest friends, Moombi. I've been on his podcast before. I'm sure he'll be on this one at the Boot Report at some point as well. But Dutch Boot Collector has a brand new pair of US 9 Mango CTR 3s. And these are a soft ground. They're not the anti-clog, but they're just like a soft ground mix stud. And this boot I wore in high school, and I think I still have video. I think I still have a video of me scoring goals in this boot. I wore this colorway and a mint green colorway. The mint green, like almost like this color, my junior year of high school. And absolutely loved them. So Dutch Boot Collector, congratulations. Thanks for joining us on today's podcast. Very cool pair of football boots. This is not a boot that I will be purchasing because I don't want the soft ground model, but it's just a very nostalgic boot for me. Moombi and I wore these matching boots like quite a lot during our play time together in high school. Now we move on to limited edition releases. So talking about the market report, limited edition releases. Back to the Pitch Viper colorway. I wasn't told how many of these were actually made, but my understanding is that there were only 1,200. I heard somewhere that there was only 1,200 pairs of these, which would make this one of the more rare, one of the more rare limited edition releases, but also a rare limited edition release from a brand that hasn't in the past done limited edition releases. So these could be like super rare at some point, which is kind of cool. I wish they had numbered them, but 1,200 pairs is pretty good, to be honest. And if I wear these one time for the playtest and then never again, I honestly won't be mad about it because I think these are awesome and they're going to look really cool next to all the other boots in this collection. So I think these are awesome, but 1,200 pairs, how wild is that? I don't know where I heard that from, but yeah, that would be pretty insane. I'll have to ask my Under Armour people and see if they know the answer to that question. But anyway, then let's talk stock availability and drops. Now, I am going to preface this by saying I am not hating on the person who's selling these boots. But last week and 2 weeks ago and the week before that and blah, 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 and the last probably year of the sheer amount of colorway fatigue that we have as consumers, I think is remarkably substantial. Not only have we never had this many colorways released in 1 year, in 2024/2025, in the last 12 months, let's say, but also there are so many boots on the resale market, and I don't even need to mention the dealer's name because it doesn't really matter. In fact, I'll probably blur it on screen, but they put up a pair of the Celestial Victory Pack Predators for under resale. This isn't all that uncommon because a lot of resellers, a lot of Instagram resellers actually have connections in the factories over in Asia or in Europe so that they can get bulk, really cheap football boots and then sell them like under retail, like they can sell them under retail, but they still make 50% or whatever crazy margin. This is an example of what I was talking about last week on the podcast, which is we are going to see an absolute flood of Celestial Victory literally just released like last week. And we are already seeing them well under retail, $50 under retail, 50 euros, 50 pounds under retail. That's insane to me. That is just a micro example of a macro issue. It's not something that I ever would have thought would have sort of ruined the boot market. But I think the unfortunate part is we're seeing resellers now having to sell like the normal stuff and try and make money on that as opposed to selling stuff that actually looks cool. And that's why I have the section about notable boots resurfacing, because I'm just like, I get really sad when I see resellers going from really dope, crazy limited edition or retro football boots to selling like Celestial Victory Pack stuff. And I get it. If that's your thing, not a problem. But especially with the dealer who put this up, it's like all of a sudden it's like, okay, we can make a quick couple bucks, which is great for the tertiary market, but I'm still not convinced that it's good for the football boot market. I don't know. It's just a bummer seeing a brand new pair of boots sell so far under retail like that, almost not even a week after they just released. So I don't know. It's just a bummer, but it is what it is. Hopefully we'll get some new colorways in that are actually good, or Adidas will just stop producing colorways for once and just let it cool off. Let demand rise, then start releasing once every 3 months, once every 4 months, a colorway that just really hits. Because I want to see that. If you want help with colorways, I'm happy to help you. This was a personal design of mine, and I've been told it's absolutely awesome. Like if they were to release something, if Nike were to release something like this, if Adidas were to release something like this, it's kind of funky, but it is really cool. And it's very iconic and it's very bright, and I think it'd be great. So section 4, your questions. You too can ask questions at noahcavanaugh.com/podcast. You submit your questions, turn on the little notification thing so you get my email newsletter as well, so you don't miss out on any of the boot comparisons or anything like that. I'm going to take a drink of water before we get into it. Turner asks, if you could have a training session with any legend, dead or alive, who would you choose? Cristiano Ronaldo. The reason for that is because I'm gonna extrapolate that this is not just a single training session. So it's not just an hour out at the pitch. This would be like, I want to spend a full day with him and go through his entire workout routine. Everything he does, all the discipline, all the little stuff, all the naps, all the freaking whatever. I want to know all of those things. And he is the shining example. And yes, I think Messi is the greatest of all time. So I'm coming at it from that perspective. Ronaldo is the shining example for what discipline, hard work, mindset, mentality can do for you. It is unbelievable what he has achieved. And yeah, he's got insane talent as well and insane genetics and physique and everything. However, it's one of those things. I just couldn't pass up an opportunity to do like a full session with him. It's freaking awesome. Tony asks, if you could bring one boot back and modernize it, which one would it be and why? Hypervenom 3. And the only thing that I would do to it is I would take the flywire. I would keep the flywire in, but I would make the flywire inside of the knit upper. So let me show you. So Hypervenom 3, one of the biggest downsides to this boot was that the flywire cables actually came outside of the upper and were the sort of the lace holes. And those, if you got stepped on, you could rip the flywire, like either break it or rip it straight out. And it would totally, like, the boots were done. They could be a totally brand new pair of football boots, but if you broke this, then you didn't have a lace loop to put your laces through. So I would do this exact same football boot, everything the same. I love literally everything about this boot. I'd put maybe I'd do like what are we doing here? Do like that style suede, make it a little bit more modern. Obviously, as you can see, the differences in the heel area. I still fit in the Hypervenom 3s, but I did wish that the heel was maybe like that. And then put some suede on the heel and then fix the eye lace loop things. Those would be my two changes. Simon asks, would you ever want to use a shoe with metal studs or even a metal sole plate, like a super lightweight aerospace grade aluminum or titanium one? Good question. The answer is no. I have, obviously, soft grounds are metal studs, so that's one thing. But I don't think it would be safe if this carbon fiber that has a little bit of bend to it is already, in my opinion, pretty unsafe for most players, and it would actually deter performance in a lot of situations. A aerospace grade aluminum or titanium sole plate would be completely unwearable because it wouldn't bend. And if it doesn't bend, then your foot can't produce force. If your foot can't produce force, then the curve of like stiffness. So let's go this way. Yeah. So this way is more and more and more stiff. This way is more and more and more performance. So low stiffness, low performance. It's a bell curve. So then you hit a point where it's like you're kind of stiff, but you're getting the maximum amount of performance. As you get a little bit more stiff, like the Puma Ultra Carbon, okay, it starts to dip off and performance actually drops compared to a little bit less stiff. And then if you were to do aerospace grade aluminum or titanium, it would be like a straight line down. Like you would just have zero performance. So the answer is no. But Simon, great question. MV asks, any upcoming Ironman events you are getting ready for? Thank you for asking. Yes, I am training for Ironman Cairns, which is spelled Cairns, Cairns, as the Aussies say. Cairns is up in Queensland. It's where some close buddies of mine live. And it's a beautiful course. It's picturesque oceans, everything you would ever want. And that race is in June. So I'm training. I've got a couple big blocks of training coming up in the next 2 months, basically April and May. And then June will be sort of peak a little bit at the very beginning of June and then come down. So June is my next race. And then I'm also racing, that's a half Ironman. I'm racing another half Ironman in Sunshine Coast in September, and then I'm racing my first full Ironman in December in Busselton, which is basically over where I used to live in Perth. It's like an hour or two away. So thank you for asking. Bella, what boots do you recommend for people with Haglund's deformity? So I will put a picture up really quick of a sketch of like what Haglund's deformity is. Basically, it's a deformity of the heel area back behind like where the Achilles is and stuff. Sort of in this area of the shoe. So for the Haglund's deformity, my best piece of advice would be to buy an Asics football boot, because Asics has one of the most soft and kind of just very, very chill heel areas with a lot of padding and not a lot of structure, which makes them incredibly comfortable and perform really well. But they've also got a great amount of sort of moldability in terms of all different heel shapes and sizes will fit in them. So this happens to be the DS Lite X Fly Pro 3. You can buy the DS Lite X Fly 5, same thing, no problem. You could argue that a Mizuno product, especially like a DNA, would also be good as well, but this one obviously has an external heel counter, so you're not going to get the same amount of, I mean, this one's probably okay, but the regular Morelia 2 is going to be probably a little bit too stiff. So I would highly recommend going for a made in Japan Asics boot. You can find them on eBay. Tokyo Football does a bunch of them as well, and I would go for those. So Bella, thank you for asking. Apologies, and it sucks to hear that you have Haglund's deformity, but there are solutions. So definitely consider an Asics boot from Japan that's got a really good suede and padded heel liner. Next, we move on to Iker. Iker, how are you ever going to make reviews of the first tier takedowns or pro models, pro versions of the boots you review? I will answer this in this episode and probably never again because I've answered it a lot already. And it's a great question. The answer is probably no. The answer is no. I have a very strong preference personally towards the highest level of technology possible in a football boot or in a performance footwear of any kind, running shoes, bike shoes, football boots, tech wear. I'm obsessed with that stuff. I love product design. I love product development. I think it's really interesting. And there are so many, and let's forget that for a second. There are so many new boots coming out now, including fact that, Under Armour Special Edition, UnoZero boots. There's 2 definitive boots that I have below me that no one's probably in the Western world has ever heard about, but I'm reviewing those. I am getting so many top end boots already. I genuinely do not have the time to do any of the takedown models. And also because they're not at the pinnacle of, I understand from an affordability perspective, I'm taking out a lot of opportunity for me to relate to people who either want the takedown models because it's what fits them better, which I'm super on board with, and or also something I'm super on board with. They just don't want to pay the money for a top end football boot. Totally understand. My channel just can't, as a human being, I just can't handle that amount of workload. I just can't, it would be so ridiculously too much. But good question. So Pranava asks how to go pro the real way and how to seek opportunities that give justice to our true strength. Wow, that is a beautifully written sentence. How to go pro the real way. Well, this is going to be the topic of probably several videos that I'm going to start filming soon. You have to work harder than you ever think you are capable of, and you have to do that for an unreasonable amount of time. Making it pro is an incredible achievement. It's also one of the most difficult things you'll ever do in your life, unless you've got crazy talent straight out of the womb and you're I'm going to rock and roll straight away. Most people aren't like that. So it's about networking, making connections, getting in the room with people, getting on pitch, get as many opportunities as you can to play at higher and higher and higher levels. You have to be working constantly. And at the end of the day, most people that I know who say they want to go pro will have days where they're like, oh my God, I just couldn't be bothered to train. I don't want to do this, whatever. I say this often and I love this kind of mindset. And this is why I live by this. Your goal to go pro doesn't care whether you have a bad day or you feel sad or whatever. No one cares. No one cares about you, first of all, and no one cares about the work you didn't do. It just cares whether you did it or not. And so for me, it's about how do you work consistently? And you don't need to work in the shadows, work in darkness and whatever. It's all you and you're alone and whatever. No. Work with other people, find other people around you who are moving towards that same direction. Even if a guy doesn't want to go pro, but he wants to join you in a training session, that's dope. Awesome. Take it. Let's rock and roll. However, you have to be singularly focused. Going professional in the football world takes so much focus. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. That's a longer conversation, but that's sort of a starting point for you. Is really to be working as much as you possibly can on all of your strengths, all the things that make you unique as a player, and then also contacting people on Instagram, DMing people, create a good highlight video, not some shit ass like thing that you've thrown together. Pay a couple $100, get it professionally done, get video. It will help you tremendously, I promise. So that's how you go pro. I mean, that's like a very, 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 very surface level starting point. Final question, Kale. Have you ever tried the Mizuno Ultra Light? It's a gold and white colorway. Yes, I know. That is a boot that is on my grail list. I have always wanted a pair. I had an opportunity to buy them when they first came out, and I didn't because I was like, oh, it's a special edition. I don't care. I'm not going to wear it. That is one of those pairs that I want so badly. And I think it's so cool. It's, for those who don't know, the Mizuno Ultra Light, the Mizuno Morelia Ultra Light, or Morelia UL, is so the Morelia 2, the base Morelia 2 down here is already lighter than the Morelia Neo by like 5 ounces. It's really light for a sort of a classic looking leather football boot. The ultralight version is like the lightest. It's like one of the lightest boots on the market, and it's Mizuno quality leather. It's Mizuno feel and touch. I've actually had them in hand before. They are remarkable. They are such a beautiful pair of football boots, and I want a pair so badly. So yes, I will be reviewing some if I can find them, but I have not seen some on the resale market in probably 18 months, year and a half. Yeah, it's been a long time. All right, guys, that is going to wrap up episode number 5 of the Boot Report. Thank you all for being here. If you made it this far, I'll leave down a link in the description box below for some discount codes for you guys, special. And as always, be awesome. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.